Welcome back to the Ross Bolen podcast, presented by Bolen Media. I am Ross Bolen, joined today by producer Kade Orris. Kade, say hello to the squad.
Hello, squad.
Squad? We are starting today's show with a story that I'm pretty positive I've never told on the podcast. It's entirely possible that I did like 500 episodes ago or something, but I'm pretty sure I was telling Kade off mic that my brain is no longer fully functioning.
It's not as sharp as it once was.
No, it's just there's no way around it. I mean, I've admitted to having a little bit of dad brain several months ago when RJ was first born, when we had David Ruff on the show as a guest, but that has not gotten better. My memory, not sharp. No. Not the sharpest tool in the shed.
Yeah, fading pretty quickly already. Because your brain is fully developed at 25, right?
Yeah.
And now you're
it's just downhill from there.
Yeah.
I thought I'd be like 50 before things just, slipped out. Like, I think there's like X amount of space in there for memories. And then once you load it up all the way.
But we only use like a small percentage of it too, right?
Yeah, of our brain.
Yeah.
Something like that. But I'm just saying, once it fills up, it pushes out the old memories to make way for new ones. And so I'm losing stuff from, 7 years ago and whatnot that it's just a shame. I'll never get that back.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely the dad brain, but also, pot brain as well.
Pot didn't help.
No,
it didn't help. Having multiple stoner phases in my life has been detrimental to my overall short and long-term memory. I'm just living in the moment, though, and that's what's important. Anyway, the point is I have a story. I grew up going to a massive Baptist mega church in Houston, Texas, okay? And just like if you've watched The Righteous Gemstones, that's not exactly what I was dealing with. Mine was significantly larger than the Gemstones church, but I'm pretty confident it is, if not the biggest, one of the three biggest churches in Houston. Mega church, gigantic, thousands of people there on Sunday, like stadium seating, crazy, 3 fucking levels of this thing. There's a top deck like at a baseball game. Like, it was ridiculous, like so over the top. Also really cool and a huge part of my childhood that I have a lot of great memories from overall. Like, I didn't have a bunch of negative experiences. The only thing that I do remember catching me off guard is when they were like, and all the gays are going to hell. And I was like, what?
Oh, okay.
Fuck?
So no priest touching you or anything like that?
Nah, that's more the Catholics. The Baptists, they just try to drown you.
Oh, okay.
You never got, you didn't grow up Baptist, right?
No, I was actually Catholic, but yeah.
So you did communion.
Yeah.
While I was being
drowned.
Oh,
okay.
You have to be drowned.
Drown you as a child when you go through, was it
baptism is what we do. It's
when you're baptized, yeah.
Yeah, you get baptized. They dunk you. They
the
drown
Catholics do that too.
Now, y'all do like a brisk or something. They like sprinkle water on your head. It's weak by comparison. But the point is, huge mega Baptist church, okay? And in the summer, for certain age groups, they had this thing called beach retreat, where the church took all of, I believe it was the middle school kids, okay? So like 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, right? To a beach in Texas. I'm pretty sure it was Port Aransas, if I'm not mistaken. And we did like several days of worship and beach time, just like taking in, the wonders of this world that God created, kid. You just sit on the beach and you stare at the ocean and you think, wow.
God made all of this.
All of this just for us. And we stayed in a hotel. You got assigned rooms or whatever and had like a counselor in your room, like an adult, from the church or whatever, that was in charge of like the 4 or 5 kids in each room. And it was really overall super fun, like no complaints, great overall experience. It was kind of like a mini summer camp for those of you who went to camp, which I also did. But this was not that. This is beach retreat, okay? Camp Ozark and the stories I've told from there, completely different place. That's in Arkansas. That was like a week or 2 weeks. This is like several days at the beach in a hotel with the church. And it was great. But on the last night of beach retreat, the same thing happens every time. Every summer, every beach retreat, the last night, they get all of the kids, all right? Like all of the different grades that are there on the trip into this massive like conference room or presentation room or convention center area of the hotel. Okay, so like a huge, huge, huge room. Everybody's in there. The head pastor, who's an older gentleman, gets in there and does like a sermon, and then at the end of it, they did something that got a little bit weird. They would kill all of the lights. So this is hundreds and hundreds of kids in the pitch black darkness. Old man up front with a microphone at a podium, right? And the old man, the pastor, would invite the children to come up, form an orderly line if you wanted to, and
they were doing this in the dark.
It was essentially a public confession in the dark. So if you had something you wanted to get off your chest and apologize for in front of the whole church, but like with anonymity involved, like because it's dark, you can't really see, right? So like you don't know who it is up there talking. That's a big part of the point here.
But can you tell by the voice? Like, oh, that's fucking Brian.
There was enough people there to where like there was never a point where I was like, hey, that's Timmy from my room. You know what I'm saying? But like certainly, yes, there were definitely some holes in this plan that they had where like, well, nobody will know who anybody is. I'm pretty sure some people recognized who was up there talking, and like if you were at the front of the room closest to the podium, you could like make out,
see who it was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, I was like in the middle. And I just kind of remember not being able to see who it was, but like you could see heights. So you'd be like, oh, that's like a sixth grader. That's clearly an eighth grader there. Anyway, the point is, he'd say, if you want to come up here and confess to something essentially, and ask for forgiveness, then now is the time. And so it was not a lot of people who would go. It was just people who like really needed to get some shit off their mind. And I remember so the first kid gets up there, and it was a boy like about my age, and I was in sixth grade. Let's say I was sixth grade, right? So that's 12 years old or something like that. And he gets up there and he's kind of crying. It's intense. Like this whole setting is very, very intense because you're in the dark. It's the pastor, all these people you're talking in front of, man. And you know how it is when you're a kid, especially like public speaking is a literal nightmare for most children. And the kid gets up there and he's like, you can tell he's sniffling, and he's like, I've been really mean to my little brother. Like I've been picking on him, and he just wants to play with me, and I don't want to play with him, and I've been mean. And he's like breaking down into tears, and he's like, I'm so sorry, God, for not appreciating my little brother and being nicer to him. And we're all in the audience like, oh yeah, well, not good to be mean to your little brother. Definitely something
you want to work on.
Yeah, you get better, but not a huge deal, right?
Right.
So like the next kid goes, and it's like a little girl saying she stole a pack of gum or something, and we're all like, yeah, you shouldn't do that. Sure. A few more kids go. Finally, what sounds like a little bit of an older girl, probably an eighth grader, right? She gets up there and she's gonna confess something, and she starts talking, and she's like, so yeah, me and my two girlfriends come over, and we go up into the attic, and we do witchcraft ceremonies. And for a moment, I was like, even as a sixth grader, I was like, you do what now? Like, I thought it was like almost trolling.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, what? There's no, but she like went into detail with it. She was like, we have this book. It's like Satan's, guidebook or whatever. And it's like black magic shit. And we get up there and we like light candles and we do chants and incantations. And so everything up to this point has been totally normal human behavior. Lying to mom and dad, taking toys that weren't yours from a friend's house, like sneaking them home or whatever, like skipping class or something, being mean to your little brother. And then this chick is up there like, yes, so I'm actually participating in satanic black magic shit. And it's not just me, it's also my friends, and nobody knows about it. And I've created a relationship with the devil himself. And we were just like, what the fuck? And you could tell, again, it's strange because there's also all these adults in the room who are like the counselors, and then there's the pastor, and now in hindsight, like all of them were like, what the fuck? Because this is a lot more difficult and complicated of a thing to address. And also, she's introducing this subject matter to a whole bunch of other kids who probably didn't even know it existed.
Exactly, yeah. And you definitely think, like, I mean, one of the counselors, like, they probably knew who it was and, like, yeah, we're going to need to talk to you after this.
The counselor who was assigned to her room slept with both eyes open that night. Just like, okay.
They probably need to go, like, drown her again to just make sure she's baptized properly.
Yeah, so it was, I just remember it was, like, the most awkward encounter I had had in my life up to that point. Like the weirdest thing I had seen unfold. Because then the pastor had to like treat her the same way he did the other kids. You know, all sins are equal in the eyes of God. And tell her like, you know, you did a great job coming up here and talking. Thank you for sharing. And I'm sure they set up a meeting with her parents after the fact. But it was so outrageous to hear like a kid of that in that age group doing something that wacky, and you just forget. Little kids get into all kinds of crazy shit, especially when their parents aren't around. But one of the other things they would do on the trip that was a bit cultish was, so that was the final night. And earlier that day, so like the last day and night or the biggest day and night, earlier that day, you would, the whole group, just like the whole group got into this convention center room and did the whole lights off confession thing, the whole group would go to the beach and anybody who wanted to get baptized could get baptized, but in the ocean. So they like take you out there into the waters with the waves and the tide and they dunk your ass until all your sins are wiped clean, which in hindsight, they should have done the day after the confessional in the dark, because that little girl very well could have been baptized earlier that day and then come out and talked about the fact that she was doing black magic. Anyway, it was just bizarre, and I will never forget it. One of the, like, you get exposed to anybody who grew up in the church, any of the churches really, you get exposed to some strange stuff as a child that doesn't really make sense or click for you at the time, that later on in life you look back on and you're like, well, that was some shit, like some serious shit there. And that little girl, I'll never forget her voice.
Never forget it, yeah.
She was so fucking...
Yeah, if you like run into her randomly and you hear that voice, you're like, oh my God, you did the witchcraft
It would
stuff.
actually make a great beginning of a horror movie. A24 should hit me up for the script on this. I could write it if you need me to. Once the strike is over or whatever. I'm not a scab.
Yeah.
Let that be known.
But yeah, so I had to do some church retreats when I was going through, I believe it's confirmation.
Yeah. I know a lot of people who did confirmation, the Catholics.
Yeah. And so we had to do some retreats as well. And one of the retreats I went to, well, I guess it was at both of them, but we also had a confession, but it was just like one-on-one with a priest.
Right.
And so
You mean the normal way, not where they hand you a microphone in front of hundreds of children?
Yeah, speak it out to the entire whatever. But yeah, so I did confession with this priest, and I hit him with the basic stuff like, I've cursed, I've cheated on a math test, or
had impure thoughts about Britney Spears.
Yeah. Well, no, that was probably more your time, not mine. I don't know who it would have been. Maybe like,
damn, that's weird.
Maybe like Selena Gomez. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, Britney was old hat by the time you were a teenager.
Yeah, no, she's been through the shit.
Yeah.
Just like
Selena
stuff like
Gomez?
that.
What the fuck?
Oh no, that's just like the first one that came to mind.
What the fuck? We really are different generations.
Yeah. And so so I started saying all that stuff, and then I was like, "Yep, that's about all I got." And then the priest asked me, he was like, "Well, do you masturbate?" And you're not allowed to lie to a priest because then you're basically lying to God. So I had to tell this priest that I did masturbate from time to time, and that's a fun thing to share that you weren't planning on sharing, but kind of were forced. Your hand was forced into saying that.
Why did he need to know?
Yeah, no, that's the biggest question I still have. Why? Because I wasn't comfortable like sharing that. Like
nobody is.
Yeah.
No child is comfortable with sharing that. I'll share it as an adult, but not as a child. And to an adult, that whole setup is off. That's not normal.
Not ideal.
You think he asked every kid that? That's his closing question?
Yeah, no, that's the last question I asked everyone. It's like, are you sure that's everything that you want to, get off your chest? But
weird.
So weird. That kind of turned me off a little bit from
the church.
Yeah.
I remember one time we were in like it was like youth day or something. So again, it was only kids, no parents. And there was a youth minister that came up and gave a talk. And he got into, up to that point, I had always been taught generally like, masturbation bad, sex bad, everything bad, really.
Yeah.
And this guy got up there and gave us a spiel about how masturbation was okay as long as you were doing it to prevent you from doing something worse. And I remember being like, fuck yeah. It was like a like a write-off. Like I was like, sick. Yes, this is huge. Finally, approval from God to whack off.
Yeah. For what
really needed that.
I mean, I guess like worse in like their eyes would be like sex.
I mean, this dude was probably an older married guy. So my assumption is that he like using it as a deterrent to cheating was my guess.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But or at least that's how I took it. I don't know. I was a kid. I wasn't having to worry about cheating on anybody. I was just worried about cheating
horny.
on. I didn't want to cheat on God.
Yeah, you're just horny and didn't want to cheat on anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to be cleansed of my sin, and he did that for me. So always thankful for that. Nice. And that was huge, huge moment for me.
Youth ministers are just a strange.
You got to be a certain type of person, dude. It's like the same with teachers, man. Like I just went to what's going to be my son and stepdaughter's new school earlier today to do like orientation and like a walkthrough. And we met all these teachers, and generally, this is the second time I've done this with my stepdaughter. I've done it before at another school. Teachers of especially really young kids, you got to be a specific type of person. And to the regular normies of the world, those people are freaks. They're weirdos, man, because you deal with small children all day, every day, and it's like another level than parenting. Like you have to be almost better than a parent to be a teacher. Because if you fuck around and like yell at the kid like parents do or whatever, like you're going to get fired. You got to be the most even keel, calm, patient person in the world to teach small children. So they're always really strange. And I'm a pretty weird cat. But even for me, like when I meet these teachers, I'm always like, what the fuck what is going on?
You almost have to be like a completely different person. No, it kind of reminds me also of like like the kid shows like Blue's Clues or stuff like that. Like they are like a completely different person when they're like around like kids and like teaching themselves when they're off screen.
I think these teachers are like this all the time though. Like it becomes your permanent persona. I don't think they can switch it off. So I think it's always.
So Steve from Blue's Clues is just like, that's just him all the time.
Well, that was a TV show, so it's different. I feel like you go in and out of character. But with the teachers I've met, I get the impression that this is how their personality is always, and it's a little bit jarring for me as a normal lunatic. I'll tell one more funny story since we're on it. So this school that they're going to go to is pretty hippy-dippy, for lack of a better term. It's the most Austin, Texas shit you've ever seen in your life. And so we went in there to meet with what is going to be my son RJ's teachers. And there's 3 teachers in there. They're all hippies. And they seem great, though. I'm really excited for him to start going. And but they've got some music playing in the classroom with us. And, it's just me and my wife and these 3 teachers. Ended up being like a private orientation, which we didn't know was going to happen. And like 30 minutes into this, like walking through the curriculum, what they're going to be doing with them. He's fucking 6 months old, by the way. He can't do that much. He can't talk. He's just learning to crawl. I'm like, how much curriculum can there be? But there's all kinds of stuff that they do with the kids, even the little babies. And they take us over to like look at the changing area where they change the diapers and stuff. And that's when I walk past the laptop that's playing the music. And I noticed that I've heard the song before. And I look over at the computer to confirm it. And the title of the song is Pussy. And the chorus goes, pussy, 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 marijuana. Pussy, pussy, pussy. Have you ever heard this song?
Maybe.
We used to throw this shit on in college because it kind of goes. I think it's by the Brazilian Girls or something like that is the title of it. And that's the chorus, man. It goes, pussy, 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 marijuana.
And they were just playing this?
Pussy. Well, they clearly didn't have their children's playlist on. Like, the teachers were just in there chilling, and I guess that they got distracted. We showed up. They didn't have time to change the playlist or forgot it was going. And I'm standing there, and I look over and one of the three hippies has noticed that I have noticed.
Yeah.
And we lock eyes and she's like, oh God, please be cool. Like I could tell she was like, please smoke pot. Like, she was like, this could be it for me right here. I could lose my
little
fucking
did she
job.
know that you're bumping that in college. So
I don't care at all. If anything, I thought it was great. I was laughing about it, but yeah, I didn't expect that.
Did your wife notice?
Nah, but I told her after the fact. I was like, did you hear the song that came on? She was like, nah. I was like, well, I'm going to play it for you. And we got in the car and I turned it on and she was like, what is this? It's like, it's good shit, honey. Just roll with it. Anyway, a lot of weird stuff been going on lately. This year, I've been focused on taking my workout routine to new, more effective heights, and Fitbod has allowed me to really accomplish that goal and get in significantly better shape. Whatever your fitness level is or what your goals are, Fitbod builds a dynamic workout plan just for you and optimizes future workouts based on your personal progress. Today's episode is brought to you by Fitbod. With a 4-year-old and a baby at the house, I don't really have time to plan my own workouts or make sure I have enough different workouts to keep my body guessing or keep track of my own workouts. That's where Fitbod comes in. It's an app on your phone. It's phenomenal. It learns from your previous workouts and adapts as you improve. You can start making progress towards your fitness goals today with 25% off a Fitbod subscription using our special URL, which I will give you in a moment. But when you get into the app, you just pick a fitness goal. It's super easy, like building muscle or, overall fitness or whatever your goal is. They've got a bunch of stuff to pick from. Then you can select all of the equipment that you have available to you, where like Kade goes to a full-blown gym. So he has access to all these different machines and equipment, and he can put that all into Fitbod so that it serves up workouts that he's able to do at his gym. For me, I work out in my garage, and I have a pretty limited amount of equipment. But I can select all that equipment within the Fitbod app, and then it builds every workout so that I do all of these different workouts with the stuff that I actually have, and with a bunch of different movements and things that I would otherwise never do or don't know how to do, right? Fitbod creates a custom workout program for you. Whether you've been missing gym time or hit a plateau, Fitbod will build a workout plan individualized to you. The app switches up your exercises to avoid overtraining or burnout, which is huge. It also keeps your workouts fresh and fun because you're not doing the same thing every time. I've been doing this for months now, and I still come across new workouts that I've never done before. Your program also changes based on your personal progress for maximized results. Whether you work out in the weight room or your living room or the garage, Fitbod has you covered. You learn new movements the right way with over 1,400 HD demonstration videos. So if you get to one that you're like, I don't know how to do this, every workout has a video right next to it that you can click on and watch so you can see exactly how it's done. A full year of Fitbod is also less than the cost of a single session with a personal trainer. I've been using it for every single one of my workouts over the past several months. It is legitimately fucking awesome. And before I started using Fitbod, I did the exact same workouts every single time I worked out for like 3 years, and it was not doing anything for my body. Fitbod is the future. It makes me work out muscles I hadn't used in 20 years. It has everything you wish those other apps had. Wherever you are in your fitness journey, get the most out of every workout with Fitbod. Get 25% off your subscription at fitbod.me/Ross. That's Fitbod, fitbod.me/ROSS for 25% off when you join Fitbod today. And you can also try out the app for free. It's time for an insane headline of the day. Are you ready for this one?
I'm ready.
It involves multiple animals. It is chaos. Here's your headline. First, a snake fell from the sky. Then a Texas grandma found herself inside the chaos of a hawk after its prey. So I'm just going to read this story because it is absolutely ludicrous. From CNN. All Peggy and Wendell Jones wanted was to end their day of yard work in Texas's triple-digit summer heat by getting cleaned up and going to the casino. The couple, married 45 years next week, routinely splits up the 3-hour job of mowing the lawn of an investment property in Silsbee, north of Beaumont, that's been in the family since 1850, they told CNN. The work is nothing out of the ordinary. It's what happened while they were at it last month, an encounter that left them at a hospital dressing blood-soaked wounds that now has them pressing pause. Peggy was riding a mower in the back of the property, okay? So this is the old lady. She's 64 years old. She was far from the trees that line it when all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, she says, a snake fell and landed on her arm. So she's riding the mower, snake from the sky lands on her arm, okay? 64-year-old woman. It says there was no mistaking it. The reptile was dark-colored and 4.5 feet long, she estimated. So a fair size for a snake. It had fallen from nowhere, and it wrapped around her arm, and it wouldn't let go. She said, quote, I immediately began thrusting my arm, trying to knock the snake off, and as I was thrusting my arm, the snake just wrapped around my arm, and he started striking at my face. So she's on the mower, she's moving, the thing is still going, the snake lands on her, wraps around her arm, and then just starts fucking going at her face, man. It says the more the grandmother of 4 tried to rip the snake off her, the tighter it would wrap and squeeze around her arm. She screamed and cried for help as the tractor kept crawling along beneath her. She's like, slam on the brakes, lady. But still, the snake wouldn't let go. Wendell, the husband, 66, was mowing the front of their property. The sound of his own tractor and the traffic on the nearby highway filled the space between them, and that's how Peggy said she knew she was effectively alone. So this guy's got no fucking clue what's going on. He's on a mower on the other side of the property. She's in the back getting her face ripped off by a snake. So then, just when she thought the snake might bite her, injecting her with fatal venom and ushering in the end of her life, a brown and white hawk swooped down and tried to clinch the snake. But the serpent would not let go of Peggy's arm. Its grip was so tight that when the hawk grabbed it, Peggy's entire arm jerked up in the air with the attempt. So now, it's almost like in a cartoon, you would expect like the hawk comes down and gets the snake and then flies off with Peggy and the snake. Like, You know what I mean? But the hawk is trying to get the snake off. The snake is getting her. And the hawk it's going again and again. It's trying to rip the snake off her arm. Its wings are flapping in her face, distorting her view of what is happening right in front of her. All the while, the tractor keeps mowing. So it's just fucking still going. It says it's zigzagging Peggy and the tug-of-war of nature unfolding upon her body across the field in an ordeal she called utter chaos.
Oh, I'm sure those stripes were absolutely fucked.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
Says many times in her life, Peggy had watched this exact same scenario play out in nature. Hawk sets its sights on its prey, swoops into attack, drops it on a barbed wire fence, then goes back to claim its prize. But she never imagined she'd play the role of fence. 4 times the hawk dove and bobbed at its prize and at Peggy before it finally scooped up the reptile and flew off, she said. So finally, the hawk gets the snake and the hawk are gone. Right away, Peggy felt some relief at having been freed. Then she looked down, and apparently it tore up her arm pretty good. Like she had, a whole bunch of claw marks and was bleeding a lot. So she ended up going to the hospital. More than 2 weeks later, she is left with the physical reminder of the chaos, her arm wrapped from elbow to wrist in bandages that have been refreshed from white to neon green to bright pink. Meanwhile, the ordeal is still living rent-free in her mind as she contemplates how it could have gone entirely different, potentially fatal. And apparently her husband says, quote, she's not sleeping well at all. When she finally goes to sleep, I'm usually having to wake her up because she's dreaming. She's having, PTSD nightmares, basically, about fucking snake falling out of the sky and then a hawk swooping down and attacking her in an effort to get the snake. It says the Joneses are taking extra precautions to ensure Peggy's wounds stay clean. Any trace of infection could portend a life-threatening turn following a past double knee replacement. I don't know what the double knee replacement has to do with this. They're just dramatizing this as much as they possibly can. This is an example of some shit that, like, for its Final Destination like. And if this happened to me, I would just even further assume that the world is trying to do away with me, to kill me.
Yeah, this is a sign from God.
A snake falls out of the sky and lands on your arm, and then a hawk comes and joins in on the fight. No, thank you.
Yeah, I did some landscaping, back in the day, and I've only seen a couple snakes.
Before the stripping, there was landscaping?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only saw a couple snakes ever, but, like, never got anywhere near them. I wasn't fucking with them at all. So I thankfully never had to deal with one of them getting attached to my arm and a hawk trying to swoop at it as well.
Falling out of the sky, dude.
Yeah, so did the hawk, like, have it and then just drop it?
It's what it sounds like, yeah. Like, the hawk had the snake already, accidentally dropped it on Peggy. It wrapped around Peggy's arm. The hawk was like, hey, that's mine. Came down and just went ham.
Yeah.
All up on her
just
shit,
need to
dude.
hire a landscaping crew. That'd be my next move.
Yeah.
Because I'm not stepping foot outside to do some yard work ever again.
Nah. I don't think I'm getting on the riding mower again after that. That's too much, man. The PTSD would take hold. Anyway, I'm glad she's okay. That'd be a terrible way to lose your grandma. She's 4 grandkids. Like, they're not even going to understand that story. Fucking snake falls from the sky. Wild. Anyway, nature is crazy. Be safe out there. Today's episode is also brought to you by Manscaped. This is a public service announcement. Manscaped now has beard products and is going even further with their brand new Weed Whacker 2.0. Go ahead and tell the world the leaders in below-the-waist grooming are traveling north of your South Pole with their revolutionary grooming products. The new Weed Whacker 2.0 and their new beard line confirms they have all the best tools for your hygiene toolbox. It's time to upgrade your game by going to manscaped.com and using code RBP for 20% off plus free shipping. I have been using Manscaped products and Manscaped products exclusively for my body hair maintenance for, 5 years now. But the new Beard Hedger Pro Kit is awesome. That is now what I use on my face, in addition to all of their other stuff for your below-the-waist grooming, and, of course, the Weed Whacker 2.0, which has improved blades and skin-safe technology with a no-tugging guarantee to take care of your ear and nose hairs, which is a thing that I didn't have to deal with until my mid-30s, really, is when that became a deal for me. But yeah, the new beard kit is amazing. It comes with 4 dermatologist-tested formulations for your post-trim care as well, including Manscaped's beard shampoo and conditioner, beard oil, beard balm to moisturize, style, and shimmer your new beard, and also 3 gifts, a beard brush, comb, and scissors as well. But Manscaped is great. They've been sponsoring our show for quite a long time at this point, and all of their products are phenomenal, and I use them myself. Can't more highly recommend them. Your significant other will be delighted to see you covering all your bases with Manscaped, if you know what I mean. So get 20% off and free shipping with our code RBP at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com when you use code RBP. Always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Cade, you're familiar with golfer Phil Mickelson.
I am, yes.
Phil, one of the guys that jumped ship over to the old Saudi Arabian League a couple years back. Big controversy. He was one of the most popular professional golfers in the world. I would say probably over the past 20 years, he's been number 2 behind Tiger Woods. Like, right, all the white people who were too racist for Tiger, they stuck with Phil.
Yeah.
So he's been up there. He's super, super, super popular. Very, very famous, very successful professional golfer. When he went over to the Live Golf League, it was a really big deal. But one of the things everybody knows about Phil that is a big fan of Phil is that he's dealt with a gambling problem over the course of his career. There would always be these details that came out about how much he was betting on certain stuff that were like completely mind-boggling. Well, there's a new book that is out from Billy Walters, who is one of the most controversial sports gamblers in America, essentially. This guy, who I believe has been in legal trouble in the past. He put out a bunch of details in this new book about gambling with Phil Mickelson. And he was apparently able to discern that Phil matched him in volume and intensity of betting. So, like, he said Mickelson had bet a total of at least $1 billion over the course of his gambling career, and that he's lost as much as $100 million, which when you're betting $1 billion, frankly, things could be worse. But the book is called Gambler, Secrets from a Life at Risk by Billy Walters, where he releases all these details about Phil Mickelson's gambling habits and documents what he says are Mickelson's stunning betting records from 2010 to 2014. In one of the sections, here's just like some bullet points. Phil Mickelson bet $110,000 to win $100,000, a total of 1,115 times. So put it in these terms. Let's say when I go place a bet, I always do so in $100 increments, that $100 is my standard bet. And when you have like minus 110 odds, which is normally what you're getting in a lot of sporting events, that means you would have to put down $110, and if your bet hits, if it wins, then you get $100 back. That's what minus 110 odds mean. This dude was betting $110,000 to win $100,000, and he did that 1,115 times, which when you go and look at his career earnings and you break them out by like annually and how many millions of dollars he's brought in each year, it's actually not that insane on a sliding scale. It is about the equivalent of somebody making like, a regular 6-figure salary betting $100 per game. But still, when you think about it in terms of like the actual amount of money stacked up, 1,115 bets, throwing down $110,000 that many times is fucking wild. Then on 858 occasions, he bet $220,000 to win $200,000. So the sum of just those $110,000 bets and the $220,000 bets comes out to more than $311 million in just betting. Then it says in 2011 alone, he made 3,154 bets, which is an average of nearly 9 per day. And just to give you some framework here, like when I was in my early 20s and was a pretty degenerate gambler, just because it was like sports betting was new to me, it was super fucking fun. I've never had college football allegiance, so I would always bet on like pretty much every big college football game each Saturday. So I would have days where there were like, I had like 10 bets going, with like over $1,000 total on the line. And at that point, like I was dead broke. There's no way I should have been doing this. That was really irresponsible. And sometimes it fucking backfired. But like 9 bets per day in a calendar year in 2011, that is fucking wild because there are days where there are no big games.
Yeah, what was he doing in like the middle of the
horse racing? Fucking who knows, man? Like that's where I have no clue. Like there were always downtimes. Like if you're a huge college football bettor, most of your bets are on Saturday. That's when most of the games are. If you're a huge NFL guy, most of your bets are on Sunday. But I guess he just did. I guess it's just the average of nearly 9 per day that is crazy. But that's if you break it out over the whole year. So he was having days where he was betting a lot. Is the point. It says on one day in 2011, June 22nd, and this is my favorite one. He made 43 bets on Major League Baseball games. So one day, 43 bets on just baseball, and he lost $143,500.
Yeah, and all those, like the amounts of bets that you're talking about was only between 2010 and 2014. So we don't even know what he's been up to like these past 8 years or so.
Yeah. It says he made a staggering 7,065 wagers on football, basketball, and baseball. Just the guy loves gambling. But one of the big controversies that has also come out as a result of this book is the dude Billy Walters claims that at one point Phil attempted to bet on the what's it called?
The Ryder's Cup?
Yeah, the Ryder Cup, which you're not obviously allowed to do. You can't bet on events that you are taking part in. And it's always the huge, question mark when it comes to finding out that a professional athlete is a gambler. Do they, or have they ever bet on their own sport or found a way to do it?
There's a Colts player that, this happened last season. They're betting on the over and unders for rushing yards for the Colts.
Oof.
And,
yeah.
He got at least suspended for a year. I don't know if he's
sure he paid
a
massive fine.
Yeah.
As well.
He got let go pretty quick.
Yeah, that's always the big, one of the conspiracy theories, one of the biggest conspiracy theories in the history of professional sports is that Michael Jordan, when he retired for a couple years and went and played minor league baseball, that was actually a suspension for gambling. Because Michael Jordan is another one of the, first of all, probably the most famous athlete in the history of professional sports, but also a very known degenerate gambler. And
yeah, they highlighted it in his documentary.
Yeah.
That he loved to gamble.
Yeah, he was like gambling with that dude flicking like a penny in the, halls of the stadium or whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of people who believe that retirement, the first retirement that he left for a couple years before he came back and won like 3 more championships, that was actually the NBA being like, you have to leave for a little while. Like it was like an unofficial suspension type of thing. And this has never been confirmed. And there are a lot of people who say that's utter horseshit. But yeah, the place we're in now with sports and sports betting is just like a constantly changing landscape where it's become legal in more and more states, right? And like sports books are all going digital. They've all got apps. You see commercials for them when you're watching football on Sundays. You see like they'll sponsor segments on like ESPN and shit. Most recently, the biggest news was that Penn Entertainment, one of the big casino and sportsbook owners in the United States that formerly owned Barstool Sports, basically gave Barstool Sports back to its former owner, Dave Portnoy, and instead did like a $1.5 billion deal with ESPN, where they are now going to be the betting partner of ESPN. And essentially, if you've been paying attention over the last few years, as these Barstool sports books have sprung up at different casinos and in different states, those are all going to be turned into ESPN bet locations. So
the Barstool name is getting...
Those are all going to be gone. All those Barstool sports books are going to be gone, and they'll just be ESPN bets. And that's one of the big stipulations of this deal. Like, there are a lot of people who are like, whoa, Portnoy's a genius. He got his company back for $1 after they bought it for $500 million. Yes, but that's also not the full story. The other part of the story is that they're not allowed to engage in any gambling shit anymore. Like Barstool is not allowed to have sports betting partners. They're not allowed to open a sports book. They're not allowed to do any of that shit. They have a non-compete with Penn, their former owner, so they cannot engage in any of that, which is obviously very detrimental to their revenue. Like that's the biggest prize. If you're a sports content company, the biggest possible prize is that you partner with actual sports books and casinos and get into the sports betting side of things, which is a weird issue they're going to have to work around. I don't know what that's going to look like.
I think I guess there was a Barstool Sportsbook in Indiana. So now that'll
be an ESPN bet.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, I believe is the name of the brand that ESPN is
that's
coming up with.
They're going with. Okay. Yeah, I would dabble in some betting here and there when I was in Indiana because it's legal. It's not quite here yet. So I don't do as much. I'll hit up my friend during the Super Bowl and like have him log into my account, which probably isn't very legal, and I'll just have him place bets for me. But even when I do, it's just like $5 or $10 or $25 if I'm feeling a little spicy, but
a little frisky.
Yeah,
you're just dabbling.
Yeah, just dabble here and there.
Yeah.
Nothing too crazy because I don't want to end up like Phil here and losing like $143 million, $3,000 in one day. Yeah.
Yeah. The story in the book about the Ryder Cup says, in late September 2012, Phil called me from Medina Country Club just outside Chicago, the site of the 39th Ryder Cup matches between the United States and Europe. He was feeling supremely confident that the American squad, led by Tiger Woods, Bubba Watson, and Phil himself, was about to reclaim the cup from the Euros. He was so confident that he asked me to place a $400,000 wager for him on the U.S. team to win. And apparently this guy declined or didn't get it done. Phil has already come out and publicly denied this.
Well, he would have lost anyways because Team Europe won apparently.
Yeah, so he would have lost the $400,000 regardless. But it is a wild story. And wagering over $1 billion in the past 30 years is bonkers. Like, he just has so much credit is a big part of, if you're like, how did he wager $1 billion? Phil's not a billionaire. Now, that's not really how betting always works. Like, especially if you're dealing with like a personal bookie, then they'll give you like a betting limit. Like, they'll say you have $10,000 in credit. You can place up to $10,000 worth of bets. But that doesn't mean you're going to win or lose anything. You may never have to pay or get paid. It just depends entirely on, how much you win or lose. But yeah, wild stuff about Phil. And on a related note, football season is back. We had NFL preseason games last night. The Texans beat the Patriots. I just feel like I need to say that because I don't get to say that ever. But if you're a sports bettor looking for a great platform to get all your action that also supports our podcast, today's episode is brought to you by MyBookie. Maybe you've never bet on sports, but you're a fan of the casino, but you never bet online because you didn't really know where to go. I was in the same boat before I found MyBookie years ago, and I've never looked back. They've got all your sports betting needs covered, but also serve as your online casino with blackjack and all that. The website is awesome and easy to navigate from your phone or computer, and MyBookie has all the prop bets, live lines, alternate lines, and futures that you could possibly need for all the sports all year long. MLB regular season games, UFC fights, boxing matches, soccer, golf. They have it all. And right now, if you join the MyBookie family using the code ROSS at checkout to support the show, you'll instantly receive a deposit bonus, giving you even more dough to throw at your favorite sporting event. Stipulations apply. So what are you waiting for? If you're already betting on sports elsewhere and you're down to do so on a great platform that supports our podcast, code ROSS at mybookie.ag is the way to do it, folks. Just use code ROSS to unlock that deposit bonus. Stipulations apply. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about this before the end of today's show. You've seen, surely at this point, mention of this Montgomery, Alabama riverboat brawl that took place.
Yes, I have seen the video on Twitter.
What is the extent of your knowledge here? Because I spent 2 hours last night going down the rabbit hole, and I learned a lot.
Yeah, no, I don't know much other than that there's a fight.
Okay,
that's about it.
Essentially, there's this dock, right? Just let me paint you a picture. There's a dock in Montgomery where these boats come and go. And there's big old river boats that people book out for trip or for like fun family events or like, whatever, to throw a reunion or whatnot. Big ass river boats. And then there's like people that also have their personal little boats that they, dock. And I think there's like a restaurant right there and stuff. Essentially, a security member like that works at this dock, a security guy, just an employee of the dock, goes out to this little boat with some old redneck dudes on it. It's like a family. There's like 6 or 7 white people, and tells them, hey, you got to move your boat because this riverboat is coming in trying to dock and we need you to move. It's a safety thing and something along those lines. And the guys are like, go fuck yourself. We're not moving. It's a black security guard. All right. And he's telling all these white dudes, hey, you got to move your shit. They're like, no. Things get heated. And suddenly this black security guard is getting jumped by like 8 white people. Like women are jumping in. Like it's fucking ridiculous. Just utter chaos. And as this fight is breaking out, like a crowd starts to gather on the dock. All these other people like, what the fuck is going on over here? Holy shit, this is crazy. The security guy's getting jumped. So all these people start taking out their phones. And there's 100 angles of this fight now on the internet that you can watch because all of these people recorded it and then uploaded it to like X, formerly known as Twitter, and YouTube and whatnot. So the best part, first of all, it's just generally a violent scene. So there's no best part unless you really want to consider things in those terms, which I do. The best part is that as this fight's breaking out, like this guy's getting jumped, one of the giant riverboats filled with people, and in this case specifically filled with black people, is pulling up to the dock to dock. And you see it in one of the angles, one of the videos is from an angle where you can see like, here's the little boat where this fight broke out with the security guard, which has been broken up by the time this other boat finally reaches the dock. But as the fight is like stopping, you can see it's slow motion almost, like the way this giant riverboat is like pulling up to the dock, but moving really, really slowly. And the chick that's filming is like, oh shit, all these people are about to come up off this boat and whoop these white boys' asses. And you start to realize that everybody on that boat has been watching the security guard get jumped, and people come streaming off this boat.
This was the boat that like had to wait for.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. People come streaming off that boat and run over to this group of white dudes and just start whooping ass. And I mean, it's like, it turns into like a 50-on-8 brawl. So it jumps from 8-on-1 to like 50-on-8. And there are, I mean, there's some regular dumbass punches being thrown that you would expect, like from people who don't really have a whole lot of fight game.
Yeah.
But then there were people who like very clearly had hands. And I mean, there was some devastating blows being dished out here. Like, it was fucking ridiculous. At one point, one of the white people jumps into the water to escape. At one point during the initial fight, a guy from like the other side of the dock had noticed it, and he jumps in the water and
over there.
Swims over to help the black security guard that's getting jumped. And it's like some shit out of a movie. Like, you can't really make stuff like this up. And here's the thing. I'm not normally into internet fights. Like, I don't get off on every internet fight that breaks. You know what I'm saying?
Watching World Star.
No, I don't. I don't particularly care. But this is like an all-time internet fight that's been documented. And because there's so many different angles, like when one clip ends, you can just find another angle that has other stuff that you didn't even notice in the first clip. I mean, it is so chaotic. And one of the funniest parts is that there are a bunch of cops just standing around, kind of watching it unfold, and they're like, I don't want anything to do with this. You can tell they're like, no, we're not going to get involved. This is fucking insanity. Like, this is not good. And then one dude breaks out a chair, picks up a chair, and just starts bashing it over people. Like, it looks like a fucking WWE wrestling match. Like, he's just like, bam, chair, bam,
yeah, it's
chair.
just a Royal Rumble match.
Yes. But then this big fat white lady gets dropped, and she's sitting on her ass, and the dude with the chair sees her and just bashes it over her head, dude. And I hope she's okay, but I doubt she is somehow. But then the cops are like, oh, well, we have to arrest that guy. That was...
Yeah, you pulled a chair out now.
It's way over the top.
Yeah, she's already,
the line. She's already down, dude. But it is unbelievable. Like, if you have the stomach for it, I do recommend watching this one. It's just wildly entertaining. And it's pretty rare that in one of these fights you see, like, justice get served. And I mean that in the way that they very clearly unfairly jumped this dude who was just trying to do his job. Like, just trying to get them to move their stupid fucking boat. And sometimes when you jump people unrightfully, like, you get your shit rocked. And they got their shit rocked, the likes of which I've never seen before. It was hilarious and awesome. Very, 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 very funny stuff from Alabama. And just the perfect place, too. Like a Montgomery, Alabama fucking riverboat dock. Like, yeah, dude, that's the American dream right there. But oh my God, yeah. So I got sucked in last night. I kept seeing comments on it. Like, people were like, oh, that riverboat brawl crazy on Twitter. And then I saw like a reel come across my Instagram that was a comic like discussing it as part of his stand-up routine. And I was like, okay, what am I missing here? So I finally went and started watching the clips, and I was like, oh my God. Like, my wife was in the bath, and I was in the fucking bed just like howling. She's like, what are you watching? I was like, you've got to see this. When she finally got out, I spent like 30 minutes walking her through it. I was like, all right, here's the first video you need to watch. Now check this out from the other angle. Here's this video that you need to watch. Then I pulled up the stand-up bit and was like, and this guy's doing stand-up on it already. I was like, I showed her all the clips.
And when did she start to lose interest?
Probably in the first 30 seconds. Yeah. She's like, fucking idiot husband. But I was wildly entertained, man. That shit was just bizarre, just outrageous. Rare that something unfolds like that and is kind of allowed to carry on. Shit like that usually gets broken up pretty quickly. But this was like all these people had watched this what I will call an injustice take place, like the security guard getting jumped. So there's a bunch of people just foaming at the mouth, ready to get it on this brawl if they've got an excuse. And once they saw like, oh, it's going down, the numbers just start to pile up.
You see people like running down like the ramp and stuff to like get to it because they're like, oh, I want a piece of this action.
Everybody wanted in on this shit.
Yeah.
Like the first group of dudes that get off the giant riverboat, they're like bouncing over to the. They're like, oh fuck yes, you can tell they've been just waiting for the boat to completely dock so they could jump off and go whoop ass. But it was fucked up though. There was even like, there's these women with the white people that I don't know what they were thinking, but they keep trying to get involved. And then black ladies that are with it's like a race war. Black ladies with the black squad just start whooping the shit out of these white girls. One of them gets thrown into the water. She's getting double teamed, pieced up by these two chicks, and then they chunk her ass into the river. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. I think there's was there one part like someone gets like suplexed or something, like they get like thrown into the ground.
The dude that swims over to like take part in it.
Yeah, it was him.
He starts wrecking immediately. And it's like a decent swim. Like, you know, probably took him a full 30 seconds or something, but like swimming full speed is not in any way tired by that, gets out of the water and just starts whooping ass. And then, yeah, he like fully picks a dude up off the ground and body slams him. It is fucking wild. There's so many different moves that get executed in this thing. There's also some sucker punches for sure. Like at one point, some of the white people are like, nope, nah, I'm getting the fuck out of here. And they start backing away, but it's too late. There's too many other people, but one of them turns his head for a second and just gets popped. And then I think that's the guy who jumps in the water to escape. He's like, there's only one way out of this. I got to swim to fucking freedom. But it was unbelievable, man. I still can't get over it. I'll probably watch it again tonight. Feels like it's like a movie to me. And there could be more angles I haven't seen yet, Kade.
Yeah, they haven't all been released yet.
Yeah, so I got to explore. A lot of people got arrested, I should note. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people. And then more people even since have turned themselves in as a result of this going viral online. They're like, well, I'm going to get a warrant eventually anyway, so I might as well go and turn myself in for better treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, yeah. I'm not condoning violence, but sometimes it's fun to watch it, you know?
Yeah, I don't need to be in on the violence.
No.
I'll sit back and watch from afar.
But man, like these dudes thought they pulled a fast one on the security guard. They did not. They did not. Justice was swift in this case. All August long is Call Your Grandparents Month. Remember, you know this already if you were on patreon.com/Ross Bolen podcast where we talked about it last week. But every August we focus on this initiative here on RBP, pushing people to call their grandparents. Obviously, if your grandparents aren't with us, you can call any older relative. And if you don't have any older relatives, as Kade and I discussed last week on Patreon, just call like a retirement community and throw out a random name and see if you can get on the phone with somebody. But the idea is you call your grandparents, you connect with them, you ask them questions about their life. And because usually, you know, like when I catch up with my grandma on the regular, it's like the same conversation. She asks me how I'm doing, I ask her how she's doing, then we reminisce on some shit, and that's kind of it. I never go deep. I don't ask a lot of questions. And I think that's a missed opportunity for a lot of us who have our grandparents with us. Like those people lived for a very long time. They've survived in this world for a long time. They have a lot of knowledge that they can impart to us who are younger and don't know jack shit. And there's no sense in them living that long if you're not going to milk some of it from them. So call them up, call your grandparents all August long, ask real questions, genuine questions, have a real genuine conversation, try to learn something about your grandma or your grandpa or whatever older relative it is. And yeah, it's just also a way for us to stay connected. It can be so easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of life and forget that your sweet old grandparents are just sitting out there somewhere doing very little on a daily basis, and they would love to hear from you. So give them a call, ask some good questions, engage with them, learn from them, show them that you love them, and thank them for their time after the fact, obviously, as well. All August long, call your grandparents. I will be doing reminders the remainder of the month on this show. And that will do it for today's show. But please support our sponsors by hitting the links in the description of this episode and using our dedicated codes, as that is how we pay the bills here at Bolen Media. You can find links to all of our sponsors for today's show in the description below. To check out our other shows, go to bolenmedia.com. We've got Jared Borislow's F1 show, Formula Bone, hosted by J-Bone himself, covering all of the F1 races all year long, all season long, I should say, with a preview and a recap for every single race. Formula Bone, youtube.com/@FormulaBone, @FormulaBone on all the social media platforms. We've got Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, where this week Barrett Dudley, my co-host, and I covered The Bear, seasons 1 and 2 finally. We discussed The Bear in full, gave our opinions, our review, recapped some of our favorite moments, discussed our favorite performances, etc. I finally ended up watching it. Enough people told me The Bear was fantastic. I finally got into it, and I really, really loved it, and we had a great time discussing it on Oysters, Clams, and Cockles. So give that a listen if you are a big fan of The Bear. And, of course, if you're from Houston, Banging the Can is my Houston sports podcast. Appreciate y'all for supporting that as well. Go to bolenmedia.com/shop to grab yourself some RBP merch. Follow Kade and I on Twitter and Instagram and Threads, and in Kade's case, also on TikTok, where I guess you're not really doing anything anymore there, though.
No, I might one day. I just haven't had the time.
At Kade Orris, Kade with a K, Kadeorris. I'm at WR Bolen on all the social medias. And this week, just like every week, we also released an ad-free, premium, exclusive episode available only to those supporting us on patreon.com/oysters/Ross Bolen Podcast. The Ross Bolen Podcast. Patreon.com/The Ross Bolen Podcast. Thank you very much. Get in there, support the show. It's $5 a month. You get access to our entire backlog of ad-free premium episodes. There are a ton of them at this point. And if you join the Enforcer tier, you also get mental health minisodes, which there are like 30 or 40 of now. And you support the pod, which is the most important thing. We appreciate y'all. We'll be back next week right here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, youtube.com/@the-Ross-Bolen-Podcast, or wherever you get our show. And then we'll be back again on Patreon as well. I just tooted.
I was wondering what that was.
I've never tooted on the show before.
I was about to ask that. You've never done that before?
No, microphone didn't pick it up for sure, but just let it be known. It did happen.
Okay.
You're welcome. Until next time, peace be with you and also with you.